أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيبي وحبيبي إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين ذاب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال أهدي الظالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. This evening our topic is about Al-Imama, believing in 12 Imams according to the Shia school of thought. As you know, one of the key points of differences between Ahl Sunnah and Jama'ah and Shia is about the concept of Imam. We as a Shia and the followers of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, we believe that they have to be an Imam after the Prophet. It's not possible not to have Imam after the Prophet. Now why and how? Here's where Shia comes from. But before I talk about the Shia, let me give you a background about where the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah are coming from. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe that after the Prophet or before the Prophet demise, he did not appoint anybody. And he left the Muslims to decide who is eligible for the leadership after the Prophet. That is the Shia, the Sunni school of thought. In this, some of them also believe that no, the Prophet did appoint, but indirectly. Okay? There is one school of thought among the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah which says the Prophet did not indicate who is the next person after him. He left the Muslims to decide on their own. And some of them believe, the same Ahl Sunnah, second school of thought from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe, no, he did appoint someone. He did indicate something like that. Not specifically, but there was an indication. How? They say when the Prophet, when his final days, he was sick, he sent the first Khalifa, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, to go and lead Salat. And he went, and this is an indication that the Prophet chose him. Because everybody was there. All the companions were there. Now the Prophet electing or selecting him to go lead the Salah when he was sick, that's automatically telling you, here's my successor. That is one school of thought. When you come to the Shia school of thought, with all the agreement, there is no single disagreement among the Shia that yes, the Prophet did not depart from this world unless he appointed the successor. Which means the Prophet did not die until he appointed successor. Now, how does the Shia prove this? Shia proved that from the Quran and Hadith of the Prophet. One of the ayahs from the Quran is ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, وَأَنذِرْ أَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Ya Rasulullah, call your closest family and invite them to Islam. And all this is in the Quran and also is mentioned in the history. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he received this verse, he invited all his family, all his families. Abu Talib was there, Khadija was there, Abu Lahab was there, Imam Ali was there, and also some of the Quraysh were there. Anas Malik was there, and also Ibn Abbas, many of the companions of the Prophet, they were all there. Then the Prophet presented to them Islam. that he is a messenger of Allah and he is chosen to be the prophet to all mankind. Then the prophet asked, who will be my successor, my brother, my supporter, my helper in this matter that I brought you? Nobody except Imam Ali. He rose his hand and said, I will do, Ya Rasulullah. The prophet said, sit down. He repeated again, nobody. The prophet said, sit down. 3 times, Imam Ali was the only one who kept saying, I will support you. I will be your brother. I will be your successor. Then after that, Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, you are my successor. You are my brother. You are my helper in this world and here. Then the prophet ended the program or that gathering. So now we have this proof as the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he appointed his successor from day one when he started this mission. So Shia believe that this is the first incident which proves that the prophet have selected Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, if this is clear, now let's come. Why is it important to Shia that the prophet have to select someone or somebody have to be after the prophet? Number one, Shia proves this way. We say we know that we know for sure that the prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. And this Islam is the last religion. No religion will come after the prophet. And this religion will go till the end of this universe. All right? 3 important things. This religion is the last religion. We know for sure because Quran said. 2, this prophet is the last prophet. No prophet will come after him. That's 2. And 3, also, we know for sure that this religion is not just the last religion. It will continue till the end of this universe. Now, if that's the case, should the prophet or Islam for that matter let the prophet die without specifically appointing someone? Of course not. Logically, it doesn't make sense. I'll give you some example. Let's say I have something like a bird who's dear to me. I have a cat who's dear to me, a pet. And I'm traveling somewhere for a week, for a month. And I know I'm coming back, right? And I know that this bird depends on me. In all matters, food, water, depend on me. Now, logically, does it make sense me leaving home knowingly I'm not coming back until a month or 2 weeks, and I know the animal depends on me, but walk away without assigning somebody to care for this animal? I don't think anybody in the sound mind will react this way or will act this way. Because the common sense tells me, since you're not there and the bird depends on you, you have to find somebody to take care of this bird or this cat. That's the common sense. Now, based on this common sense, we say it doesn't make sense that Rasulullah knows that he's going to die. And also, this religion is so dear to him that Allah sent him to care for people and lead people. And he dies not making sure that there is a successor after him. And when it's more, what is amazing in the whole scenario, that in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they say the prophet died without appointing successor. That historically, Abu Bakr did not die unless he appointed Umar. In his final day, he made sure that he appointed somebody for Muslims. Good. Now, Umar ibn al-Khattab, he did not die until he mentioned 6 people who he thinks they qualify. And he says any one of these 6 will be fine. Then what happened? One of those people, Imam Ali, Uthman, Zubair, and the others, Abdul bin Auf. Now, later on, some of them dropped, and it came to 2 people, Imam Ali and Uthman. And then they said to Imam Ali, If we elected you as a Khalifa, as a leader, are you going to act according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet and the Sunnah of Abu Bakr and Umar? Imam Ali said, if I get chosen to this point, for this position, I will act according to the Quran, yes. According to the Sunnah of Muhammad, yes. But not according to the Sunnah of Abu Bakr or Umar. They said, okay, you stand aside. They brought Uthman. Yeah, Uthman, if you get elected to this position, would you act according to the Sunnah of the Prophet and the Sunnah according to the Quran, Sunnah of the Prophet and the Sunnah of Shaykhain, Abu Bakr and Umar? He said, sure, I will. They said, then you are the Khalifa. That's how the third Khalifa came into picture. Because Imam Ali refused to act upon according to the Sunnah of the Abu Bakr and Umar. But the point I'm trying to make here is, in history, Abu Bakr didn't die until he appointed successor. Omar didn't die until he appointed successor. But the only one who did not appoint is what? Rasulullah. Now how? So this is a million dollar question. How is it that in Islam, an important issue that Abu Bakr can understand and figure it out and do it, Omar can figure it out and do it, but Rasulullah cannot figure it out? And he dies not doing it. How is that possible? He's the most knowledgeable, the most wise man, the most caring person, right? Now, all of this is there with Rasulullah, and he dies without appointing someone to be successful. How will that be? Now, this is where the Shia comes and say, no, that's not possible. On top of this, there's some proofs also which prove that it's not possible. How? We believe Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't leave from Mecca to Medina until he appointed someone on his bed to sleep, even though he's just going to Medina. And check the Quran and Hadith. Who did the Prophet choose to sleep in his bed and care for things that he's leaving behind? Imam Ali. And he knows that he's not dying. He knows that he's just traveling there for a short period. And the Prophet made sure that Imam Ali sleep in his bed. Imam Ali takes care of things after him. Now, the second trip, which is death, he knows he's not coming back. And still he didn't write his will, or he didn't appoint somebody. And on top of that, what makes this amazing, right, is that Rasulullah didn't die with heart attack. So no, he slept and then he died from his sleep. So he didn't get a chance to write. No, 3 months before his death, he knew that. In Hajjat al-Wada', when he was in Hajj, he is in Hajj. He said, I will be called and I have to respond to the call. The companion asked, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean? He said, my death is approaching. And that was in Zul Hajj. Muharram, Safar, the end of Safar, the Prophet passed away. In Dhul Hajj, he knew. Muharram, he was there. Safar, at the end, 28th of Safar, was the death anniversary of Rasulullah. And still the Prophet did not write or mention any success. How possible? That's where Shia comes and said, no, that's not possible. The Prophet must mention somebody. But who did the Prophet mention? Whose successor? That's where we come in to say 12 successors. The Imams, alayhim salam. Those Imams, as we believe, the reason why it's needed to have Imam after the Prophet, because this religion is going to be till the end of the human life. And there will be ups and downs. Things will come new. Things will happen. Now, if the Prophet was there, nobody questioned. People go to the Prophet, they ask him, he give the answer, done deal. But the question is, after the Prophet, who is like the Prophet, who can answer people's questions, who can lead people to the path according like the way the Prophet used to lead, who will be like the Holy Prophet in all the qualities, who can take that leadership and do what the Ummah needs. This is where Shia comes in. They say, no, there must be somebody. And the Shia believe that that person must be the Imam. Now, who is the Imam? What's the meaning of Imam? Called Imamat. Imamat, what does it mean? In Arabic, the word Imam means a leader. The word imam means a leader. And a leader, whether for good or bad, is called imam. Now I know for sure we're using the word imam for good reasons, right? A good imam, or my imam, this imam. But the word imam literally in Arabic is not used for good or bad. It can be used either. And Quran used the word imam for bad leaders and the good leaders too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَقَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ. Allah says, Ya Rasulullah, when the leaders of kufr, disbelief, when they fight you, Ya Rasulullah, fight them back. But Allah called them A'immatul Kufr. A'imma is the plural of the word imam. That's the imam for wrong reason. Now, then there is another word, imam also came for that good reason. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. Allah said, we made them to be imams. يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. They lead under our command. So the word imam can be good imam and the bad imam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called Fir'aun. It's an imam for his people too. That's what imam literally in Arabic. But in our aqidah, as a Shi'a, in our belief, when we say the word imam, what do we mean? They said, al-imama ri'asatun ammatun. It's a general leadership. General leadership which covers all fields of life. Now, this definition is very important to understand. How do we define imam? As a general leadership. What does it mean, general? Imam is not just imam for people. He is imam for humanity and also the jinn. That's why in Ziyarah of our 12th Imam, some of us, if you have read it, you will see, Assalamu alayka ya imami wa imam al-insi wal-jan. Oh, peace be upon you, my imam, and imam of mankind and imam of jinn too. That's why in the definition we say, the definition of imamah is a general leadership, which we believe imam is an imam for all humanity, Muslims and non-Muslims, Shia and non-Shia, every human being. That's one, including jinn too. Now let me take even one step further, even animals too. The imam of imams is beyond that. That is why I say general. That's one. Then he says in all fields of life, which means some people think imam is imam for about salat, Quran, Hajj, and zakat, and that's it. No. Our imams, their field is bigger than that. They're imam in all matters. Meaning what? When we come to the economy, imam is the leader in economic too. That he has to lead people about economics. How should we run the life of people in the world? Imam is the leader in that too. In the same way that if we need something halal, haram, we go to him. In economy, we go to him too. Not only in economy, in every aspect of life, in medicine. Somebody is sick. Ya Rasulullah, somebody is having stomach ache, headache, problems. He is the doctor of mankind too. He should be able to prescribe what to do and what not to do to get somebody back to recover. That's number two. Number three, in every life matter, even in computer today, if Imam Zaman is to come today, he must be the best in computers. I'll give you some example. Do you know there is a narration at the time of Imam Ali? He looked at the water and he says, I swear by the one who sent Muhammad with the truth and as a messenger, if I want, I will have made electricity from this water. Over 1,000 years ago, he said this. This had nothing to do with fiqh, nothing to do with salah, but he said, I would have generated electricity from this water. Today, a lot of people, we get our electricity from where? From water. So when we say that Imam covers all matters of life, meaning every aspect of life, whether about this dunya or the hereafter, that is the leadership of Imam. That's the definition of Imam, according to the Shia school of thought. This Imam also has to have qualities. Quality number one, an imam must be elected or selected by Allah or the Prophet. Imam is not a self-appointed position. Or he meant to appoint him. No. If you remember, like we said about the prophethood, the same thing. Every imam must be elected or selected by Allah or the Prophet. That's it. Not a human being to select the Prophet, imam. Never. Now question, how do we know that? What is the proof from the Quran that yes, imams are chosen by Allah? Now there is an ayah in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, the chapter of women, where Allah said to the Prophet, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those of you who believe, ati'u Allah, obey Allah, wa ati'u Rasul, and obey the messenger, wa ulul amri minkum, and the leaders of your matters or your affairs. This ayah is in there. Okay, then what was mentioned that when this verse was revealed, one of the most reliable companions of the Prophet is called Jabir al-Ansari. He came, Ya Rasulullah, you read this ayah to us, but I have a question. Prophet said, what's the question? I said, the ayah asked us to obey three individuals. The first one, Allah. The second one, you. The third one, leaders of our affairs. He said, Ya Rasulullah, obeying Allah, we know, no question. Obey you, no question. But Ya Rasulullah, can you explain who are the ulul amr? Then the Prophet said, Ya Jabir, they are the Muslims. They are the leader of mankind. Then Jabir said, Ya Rasulullah, can you tell me who they are, their names? Then the Prophet said, sure, Ya Jabir. The first one, Ali ibn Abi Talib. The second one, Imam al-Hasan ibn Ali. The third one, Imam al-Hussein, son of Ali. The fourth one, Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, son of Hussein. The next one, the fifth one, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, son of Ali Zain al-Abidin. Number 6, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, the son of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. Number 7, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, not Imam Musa al-Kadhim, the son of Imam Ja'far. Then whom? After that, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, the son of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. Then after that, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad, the son of Imam Ali al-Rida. Then whom? Say after that, then Ali ibn Muhammad al-Hadi, the son of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad. Then whom? Then Imam al-Hasan al-Askari, the son of Ali al-Hadi. Then whom? They say the last one, his name is my name too, Muhammad. With him, Allah will cover the entire universe with justice after the world experienced injustice. This is the narration that the Prophet mentioned one after the other. The names also included. Now, there are other narrations too, which even added some things more, where the Prophet, as he mentioned, one by one, he came to Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, he said, Jabir, let me tell you, you the one asking question, you will live long to see Ali, you will see Hassan, you will see Hussein, you will see Imam Zain al-Abidin, and you will see Imam Muhammad al-Baqir too. And here is the case, when you see him, send my salam to him and tell him, this is the salam that comes from your messenger. Tell him this is the salam that came from Rasulullah that is sending you this salam. And guess what? Historically, that exactly happens. But the history says the day that Jabir met Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, he was blind because of the age. He couldn't see. But he conveyed the salam to Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. This is the narration. Now, the other narration, when the Prophet reached to that name, Imam Mahdi, he said, his name matches my name. And he is my grandson, which with him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cover the world with justice under his leadership. This narration is there that the Prophet mentioned the Imams. Now, not only that, I'm going to give you also the proof that Imam is mentioned to be 12 successors. Because today, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they stop at 4. They call them Khulafa al-Rashidin, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali. These are the 4 successors. Now, after that, nothing. But when you go to Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih al-Muslim, which is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah book, there is a chapter called Babu Khulafa al-Nabi. successors of the Prophet. Right? Now, check it that it says, the Prophet says, this is exactly wording of that book, Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, لا يقوم هذا الأمر ما مر فيهم 12 خليفة. This world will not come to an end until 12 successors come through. Now the narrator said, then the Prophet said something, but I could not hear him well. Then I asked somebody closer, and the person said, the Prophet said, كلهم من قريش. All of those 12 successors are from Quraysh. This is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari that there have to be 12 successors. Now you ask any Sunni scholar if he can come up with the 12 Imams or 12 successors. None. Many scholars have tried to go one way or another, but at the end, they cannot come with 12 successors by name. Because some of them, as they go, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Then after that, they go to Muawiyah. Some say, no, Muawiyah is not a good guy to be in a successor. Some go with the Abu Sufyan. Then some say, no, it's not. Some go, and then they jump to, what do you call, Yazid, son of Muawiyah. Then some say, no, he's not a good guy. Then they jump to Omar bin Abdul Aziz, who happened to be at the time of Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. Then at that point, they say the rest, we don't know, only Allah knows. Nobody can come up with the 12 solid successors like the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We believe these are the true successors of the Prophet. And all of them from Quraysh, from one to another. That is one. Now, number two, we said the Prophet have to appoint them too, through the Quran, through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this has happened too. When you go in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us there's an ayah called Ayat al-Tabligh. When the last year the Prophet went to Hajj, on his way back, Allah sent him this verse, Ya ayyuhar rasul balligh ma unzila ilayk. You have to proclaim what has been revealed upon you. And if you don't, it's like all your 23 years of service is in vain. The Prophet stopped the entire companions. And then he asked them to make a member platform. Oh, they made him, the Prophet stood on it because they made it with the seat of the horses. He climbed on it and he gave one long khutbah. And he said, whoever I am his master, Ali is his master after me. This is mentioned in the Quran. After he mentioned Imam Ali alayhi salam as the successor, then the ayah was revealed. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today, I have completed your religion. Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. And perfected my blessing upon you. The ayahs in the Quran. These are the proofs that the Prophet, not only Quran mentioned like the previous one, even Rasulullah also. And as you go through the chain, every Imam elect or mention the next Imam after him. Like Imam Ali before he passed, he selected Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan before he died, he selected Imam Hussein. Same the line, the way the Prophet said it should be. So the first thing we believe is that Imam cannot be chosen by any individual. They have to be chosen by Allah or the Prophet. That's number one. And that we are proving that. Number two, an Imam also must be infallible. Whatever the Prophet was, if you remember, we said the Prophet have to be elected, and if the Prophet have to be also ma'soom, which is infallible, Imam must be ma'soom too. Can't commit any sin and doesn't even think sin. Why? Because Imam fits the shoes of the Prophet too. It's like when you say somebody is a vice president, when they elect, any country have a president and vice president. Now, when you say somebody is a vice president, what does it mean? If the president is not there, he can fill in that shoe and act exactly as president. Now, if he doesn't have the quality of president, he cannot even be what we call vice president. Because to be vice president, meaning you have all what it takes to be president. The same thing, all the qualities of being prophet is there, but they're not prophet. They're not prophet, because after Prophet Muhammad, there will not be any prophet after him. But these are individuals after prophet, successors of the prophet, who have the qualities to be the leaders of the Prophet. So they have to be infallible. And there are proofs from the Quran which prove that they are infallibles too. That is number two. Number three, they also have to have divine knowledge connected to Allah. That their knowledge comes from Allah. Never been taught by any individual outside. And that's the fact. You go and check the knowledge that Imam Ali has, which has been proven the most knowledgeable of all after the Prophet. Who was his teacher? Nobody. After Imam Ali, Imam al-Hassan. No, everybody knows how much he has knowledge. Who was his teacher? Nobody. Except Allah. The same thing applied to every Imam. And they have proven from their childhood and adulthood. One of the Imams, Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, who was the youngest Imam to die. He died at the age of 25 years. They poisoned him. When his father died, they brought him in the castle to question him. After his father, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, they brought him question. Allahu Akbar. And Imam, they brought scholars to question his knowledge to see if he is the Imam or not. And Imam made them look like fools in the castle of Bani Umayyah, Ibn al-Abbas. How? One question they brought, and this Ma'mun, who killed Imam Rida alayhi salam, he the same person, brought some scholars to find one very difficult question to ask Imam to prove that he is not Imam. And what was the question, by the way? The question they asked Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, what is your answer regarding a person who was in the state of Hajj and then he killed an animal? Because you know, in Islam, when you are in the state of Ihram, when you are in there to do Hajj, you are not allowed to kill any animal. You are not allowed to hunt. If you do, it's kafara, which is penalty. So the question is, what do you say about a person who happened to be in the state of Ihram and he hunt? From just one question, Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam broke one question into 40 questions. And he asked him, the man, Ishaq al-Kindi, I said, what do you want me to do? Answer all the 40 or answer some of them? And they were very, very shocked that from one question, Imam broke it. And some of the questions that Imam asked, said, okay, you asked me about somebody's in the state of Ihram and then they killed an animal. Now, is that their first Hajj or second Hajj? That's question number one. Question, because each one of these is different. If the first Hajj is different compared to the second one. Why? Because if the first Hajj is wajib, if it's the second Hajj, then it's mustahab, then the rule is different. Now, then Imam asked, was this in the daytime or the nighttime? Because if they kill or hunt animals during the day, the penalty is different than if they happen to be at night. What is the difference? If you kill the animal at night, the penalty is double. Because now not only you are killing this animal at the place you're not supposed, you are also now interrupting the rest and the sleep of that animal. And that was also another crime. Imam says. Number three, Imam says, did the person regret or did not regret? Because when somebody do something wrong and they regret, they feel bad, then the punishment is less. Compared to somebody who feels okay, no big deal, the punishment is different. And Imam goes on and on and on up to 40 questions of that one question. That's when they realize, whoa, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, can you give us all these scenarios? And he did. And there was nobody ever could claim, I was his teacher. I taught him Quran. I taught him fiqh. I taught him history. I taught him biology. Never. Same thing, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq in Medina. He stayed there for years teaching all kind of subjects. Biology, medicine, tafsir, fiqh, history, name it. 40,000 people in his one class. Today, as we talk about some of the subjects that they teach in America called algebra, right? Now, this came from where? From one of the companions of Imam Jafar al-Sadiq called Jabir, who learned from Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. and became that famous. Where did Imam Jafar al-Sadiq study? From Allah's way. So one of the conditions of Imam, he must have the knowledge from Allah, divine knowledge. If he is selected from Allah, two, also he is ma'soom. Number three, he also have divine knowledge. Number four, he should be able to perform some miracles too, like the Prophet. And all the Imams were able to do that. Every one of them. An incident and scenario happened, and they prove that they have divine power. All of this in combine make them the Imams that people must follow. So this is a summary of our belief in regarding to the Imam that a person is supposed to follow after Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I hope we have covered some basic, and if there is any question, inshallah I'll be taking questions. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.